Hello soldiers, welcome to another episode of Soul Mission, where we believe that each of us has a profound purpose waiting to be unlocked. I'm your host, Aya Daniel, and if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and follow Mission of the Soul on Instagram. So as we always say, empower your soul and ignite your mission. Your journey starts now. Now, this episode of Soul Mission is all about procrastination, and I'm sure so many of us can relate to procrastinating, and it's one of the things that when you're doing it, you know that it's wrong, but you don't stop doing it. For example, you go to your laptop, you turn it on, you're ready to be productive, and then you sit there and think, let me just have a scroll through Instagram for 2 seconds, or I need to do some cooking before I do this, or let me make a cup of tea. That's procrastinating, and it's the most annoying thing because after you procrastinated, I think, what could I have done with that all that time that I was literally doing absolutely nothing? But I remember watching this person who was talking about procrastination, and they said that procrastination is the assassination to the destination, which made me go, oh my God, it so is. It is something that is so easy to do, but it really holds you back. It stops you from reaching where you need to reach. And I guess it's more of a coping mechanism to avoid the anxiety of actually starting doing an important task, and like a task that you know will do you good. But I guess it can get quite overwhelming in the sense that you have this task to do, no matter how big or small it is, you know all the steps that need to be done, you know what you need to do, but the thought of actually starting it is like, oh my God, where do I start with this? And you know that the second you do start, you know how much you have to do to reach your goal. So then it's like, let me just avoid this for now. And that's basically what procrastination is. And it's something that everyone deals with. And I guess that when you are procrastinating, the way that I see it is I compare myself and I think, oh, there are people out there that, they're just grinding. They're grinding. The whole idea of grinding culture, where there's no procrastination and you're literal Einstein banging out revision or banging out your side business, your side hustle. It's so easy to think that there are people out there doing everything that's supposed to be doing without any procrastination, but I can assure you that many, many people procrastinate. So the actual definition for procrastination is delaying or postponing, the act of delaying or postponing something. So that's delaying or postponing something basically for no good reason and knowing that it will bring no good consequences. It's actively delaying or postponing something. So you know in your head, I should be doing this, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to delay it for now. I might do it a bit later. There's a set of neurons in our brains called the amygdala, and that is used for threat detection. So when you're going to do a big task, a small task, a task that you know that needs to be done, but you don't want to do this task, your amygdala identifies this threat, and it stresses you out, it makes you a bit anxious, and then you avoid it. But I think the important thing, and the way that you have to kind of shift your mindset to get over this procrastination fear, is to see that task or that thing that you know should be done. If you see it as the quicker I get this done, firstly, there's only good that can come from it, for example, growth and a task done for the day, and you just see it as something that just needs to be done right now. And you basically, there's this 3-2-1 mechanism from, I'm going to try and remember her name, this doctor, and she basically says, don't give your brain more than 3 seconds to even think about what you're going to do. So you literally go 3-2-1, you get up and do it. Now, so much easier said than done, but it actually makes sense because if you give your brain time to procrastinate, time to think about whether you should do the task or not, time to think of the pros and cons of doing it now or later, for own self-comfort, you're likely to go, okay, I'll just do it later. But if you say 3-2-1 and you get up and you do it, you will actually end up doing it. And what kind of works for me, if you're in this state, you feel anxious, you feel stressed because you want to do the task, but you don't want to do it. It's very anxiety inducing. So to get over the fear of starting whatever task that you need to do is you should do it. So you do it, but for literally 1 minute or for 5 minutes. So for example, let's think of it as like a workout. You know you need to do, you're trying to be consistent with your workout, but one day you just don't feel like doing it. If you just go 3-2-1 and you do literally like a 1 minute plank or 1 minute of Russian twists, and that will basically feed the serotonin. So this is all about your dopamine. It's about getting that dopamine hit, which makes you want to do more. But when you're in a state when you don't have that dopamine and you're in that state of demotivation, and then you do your task and you have all this dopamine and serotonin running through your body, that's when you feel good, and that's what pushes you to do more. So if you do 1 minute of this task or 1 minute of what you're meant to be doing, you're going to get that dopamine hit, which is going to go, okay, let's do more. It's that reaching that tiny little goal, because normally it's like, okay, I need to do 2 hours of work. I need to do a 20-minute workout. I need to do 30 minutes of meditating. I need to go on this run for however long. And it's like all these long amounts of time. Your brain might be going, I actually just don't really feel like doing that. So if you just do 1 minute of it and you get that little dopamine hit, you're likely to carry on. And there was a study where it showed that 80% of people that started kept going. Just start and see how you feel. It'll give yourself like a little hit, a little physiological hit, and then you can keep going with them. But if you come to understand that the whole kind of essence of procrastination is the fear of productivity, sitting on our phones, scrolling through whatever, watching Netflix aimlessly, that firstly gives us dopamine. That is like a comforting, nice thing to do. And doing what you know that is the best option comes with anxiety. So we avoid that. So that's natural. For me, comparison is thief of joy. And if you listen to this podcast, some of you know that that's my favourite quote, is comparison is thief of joy. Something that I try to really not do. Because when I start doing a task, I basically set these insane goals for myself. Let me write a book in an hour. Like, it's ridiculous. I'll think, okay, how many podcast episodes can I record? I'm going to launch my entire podcast and record 10 episodes in a day and do this and that. Like, they're impossible tasks to set. And then when I don't achieve it, I get really upset. And then that makes me not even want to do anything the next day. So the best way to deal with that fear of starting is a kind of method that I use is the Eisenhower matrix. So that's basically delegating your tasks. It's like a box. So you delegate what's the most important, what's the least important, what's most urgent, and what's the least urgent. And you basically put everything, what I do is I put everything that I need to do in these boxes, or I write just everything that I need to do down, and I look at what needs to be done now, what should be done now. For example, I need to record 1 episode of Soul Mission, not 5 in one day. So I'll record 1 episode of Soul Mission and I'll edit it and I'll record it and I'll edit the audio and so I'll get that done. So it's about micro-organising, and it's not looking at this task of, if you're working on a project, not looking at the end goal. It's actually writing down step by step these tiny steps of what you need to do. And I mean tiny steps. So for example, if you have like an essay to write, you're not going to start by writing straight away your introduction. You're going to start by doing your research. And if you break that down again, what research are we going to do? We're going to research into first section of the essay. So just that tiny beginning bit of the essay. And we're going to spend 1 hour doing that. Then we're going to synthesize that information. And then, so it's all about literally breaking it down into tiny, tiny steps to make it seem less daunting. Because our mind, it so easily goes into fight or flight. That's just what humans are. They are so easily in this fight or flight mode. And if you just learn how to compartmentalize your day and your tasks into these tiny, tiny, tiny sections that are so doable, you are very likely to get those done. And if you just forget about the end goal for now, focus on what needs to be done right now and what can be done in 1 hour, for example, and you put your day into different 1 hour tasks, you're very likely to get it done. And it's just about this whole idea of doing things that we don't want to do. For humans, it's what releases the most dopamine for us, basically. It's all physiological. We are physiological beings. We run on our hormones, on what hormones are released, what makes us feel good. But it's just about what releases the most dopamine for us. And it's only the things that aren't actually fun doing that will push and grow us. So once you start associating being productive with dopamine, that's when you'll start to see a real change. So if you start associating getting an hour's work done with dopamine rather than sitting on your phone for an hour and that releasing dopamine, then you're much more likely to get things done. There's this whole idea going on of dopamine detox, which there are kind of mixed reviews online. People that think it's really good for you, people that think you don't need it. So it's basically about depriving yourself of dopamine for 1 day in the week or every day, it doesn't matter how you do it, but 1 day a week. And it's to revive your dopamine receptors. So it's having no kind of stimulation for the whole day, which is basically no phones, no music, no movies, no good food, nothing that is enjoyable basically. And then you end up finding fun in boredom. I'm definitely going to give it a go one day and let you know how I find it. But I guess it's kind of like going back in time where there was no technology, because technology is what makes us constantly stimulated. In this day and age, we are never bored. We don't have any means to be bored because we've got our phones, we've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, we've got social media, then we've got YouTube to watch videos. We have everything at our feet to ensure that we are never, ever bored. I know before there was technology, there was no means to put on your TV or watch your Netflix when you're bored. You'd have to find things to do. You'd have to get imaginative. You would, I guess even when I was young and I didn't have a phone, I remember I'd read a whole book in a day. And I don't know the scientifics of it or the actual studies that are in it, but has completely shortened everyone's attention spans because we're so used to watching these 1 minute clips, these 30-second clips, these 10-second clips, 2-second clips on TikTok, for example. And I even find myself, when I'm watching a 1 minute video, I'm like, hurry up, get to the point. That is what technology has done to us. It's made us not want to feel the tiniest bit of boredom. If you do, we'll find something to substitute it for. So dopamine detox, I actually think will be really beneficial, not even to get rid of your dopamine, but to just get imaginative, just feel what it's like to feel bored and to actually live as if there was no technology and see what you can make of your day with that. All in all, procrastination, as I said at the beginning, is the assassination to your destination. I think if you can remember that and you can think, this is the worst thing that I should be doing now is procrastinating, let me just get up, let me do 3, 2, 1. It was Mel Robbins, actually, Dr. Mel Robbins, who came up with this technique, is to just say 3, 2, 1, get up, work on it for 5 minutes, work on it for 1 minute, get that little dopamine boost, and then you'll get out of that kind of trough, she calls it. So if you know that you don't want to do something that's a bit more painful, basically, and then get that dopamine hit and you'll get out of that trough. So do that workout for 1 minute and you'll get a bit of a hit and then you'll feel a bit balanced again. Our mind is the most powerful computer. It takes nothing to trick our minds, firstly. You can trick your mind by literally smiling. If you're sad and you smile, your brain doesn't know that you're actually sad. It thinks that you're happy again. So your brain is so easily manipulated. And if you just learn how to manipulate it a bit to help yourself and to get out of any procrastination state that you're in, then do it. And understand that everyone procrastinates. It's not just you. It's a universal experience where people don't necessarily want to do things that is hard, that is tricky, that it requires effort. So that's just something that everyone goes through. But once you learn how to get out of that little phase, then I'm confident that all you will see is growth. And also remember that genius thrives on a certain amount of hardship. Now, as we wrap up another episode of Soul Mission, I want to thank each and every one of you for listening in. And remember that your mission is a powerful force of good in the world and your mission matters. And until we meet again, peace, love, and happiness, soldiers.